Tahina Paopao, she hacked Caitlin Clark. Her arm is like being grabbed by Tahina Paopao and she does take it off.
And then when the refs don't call the bear hug.
One of the worst missed calls I think I've ever seen in basketball.
This is another year and another case of WNBA referees not making the right calls when it comes to Caitlin Clark.
The WNBA is physical and she just needs to get over it.
New footage just dropped and it's explosive.
Let's watch the play here.
To reset things.
As you can see, she dribbles over to the wing, pushes off a little bit, and hits that three. Now, if you slow things down and if you actually go frame by frame, you can see that Paopao had two hands on Caitlin. It wasn't just a one-hand hand check. She was kind of grabbing her with two hands.
Caitlin Clark was clearly targeted by Atlanta Dream players, and now the evidence is impossible to ignore. From a double jersey grab to a full-on hip check, what the refs missed in that play is shocking.
This is some of the worst refereeing I've ever seen to not call a defensive foul here. Like, this is not just a hand check. This is a double jersey grab.
WNBA referees that's making it so damn hard for them to make the right calls at the right moment.
And fans are furious. But here's the kicker. The internet is blaming Caitlin instead of calling out the real problem.
She's going up against Paopao and she does a step back three, she hits it, but the internet is going wild for this because they are complaining about her pushing off with her left arm.
If you believe Caitlin Clark deserves respect,
Caitlin Clark effect seems to be crazier than year one.
I love watching her score and just everything about her.
protection, and a fair game, drop 100% in the comments right now to show your love and support. Let's get into the footage that has everyone talking.
On it back. Now watch this. Now this is it right here.
Let's talk about the moment that's gone viral. And for all the right reasons. Caitlin Clark, in a preseason matchup against the Atlanta Dream, was matched up against Tahina Paopao. And what unfolded was not just another basketball play. It was a clear example of Clark being physically targeted on the court. The footage reveals everything in plain sight. As Clark attempts to drive past Paopao, she's immediately met with not just one, but two hands grabbing her jersey.
Paopao is on her. Paopao grabs her hip. You see here. So Caitlin's trying to blow by Tahina Paopao. Like, Tahina Paopao is not a good enough defender to play flat like this. Two hands on Caitlin Clark's jersey. Then she goes around the hip. Caitlin shoots from so far back. Oh my God.
Paopao wasn't even in a solid defensive stance. She was flat-footed, off balance, and completely caught. So what did she do? She grabbed Clark's hip, pulled her jersey, and used both arms to physically stop her from blowing by. This wasn't a subtle hand check. This was a textbook foul, a veteran move by Paopao to stop a drive she knew she couldn't defend. And instead of a whistle for the obvious defensive foul, the refs let it play.
It's not an offensive foul, and if it's an offensive foul, the offensive foul comes way after the defensive foul. Even if it wasn't for the hand, I don't think that that's enough of a push-off to call an offensive foul, especially when the defensive player is off balance.
Clark, trying to shake off the grip, barely extended her arm, but that tiny motion was enough for officials to call an offensive foul. Are you kidding? Here's what makes it even more insane.
This happens a lot. There's a lot of times that guards are working the defenders off of them, especially if a defender has a hand on their side, on their jersey, on their arm, anything. You are allowed to kind of swipe and get the defenders off of you.
The slow-mo replay shows that Clark was already past Paopao before the slight arm extension. Her legs had cleared the defender, and she had momentum. The only reason she didn't score a layup was because Paopao literally hacked her to prevent it. And yet somehow, the penalty went against Caitlin.
Caitlin is past Tahina Paopao here. Tahina Paopao is stopping her with her arms. Her arms like this on the jersey, stopping her. There is an arm extension. Because she's in such bad defensive position, is already, look at her where her feet is before the contact. She's throwing herself out of the play anyway.
Now listen, was there some contact from Clark? Sure, but let's keep it real. Every elite guard in basketball uses a bit of separation. The difference? When Clark does it, it's suddenly a problem. The way Paopao threw herself out of the play made the contact look worse than it was. It was dramatics, not defense. And this wasn't a one-off. The same game saw Clark getting grabbed, held, and bumped up and down the court, with zero calls going her way.
Caitlin Clark's statue. In order for them to gain separation, they kind of stick their forearm out there because they're getting bear hugged. The other defensive player won't let them cut across to the lane.
It's hard to watch this clip and not feel like there's something more going on than just tough defense. This is targeting, plain and simple, and the refs let it happen. The footage doesn't lie. And now the world's seeing what fans have been saying for months. Caitlin Clark is being treated differently, and it's time we start calling it what it is. Bias, plain and simple. Now here's where things get even messier. The online reaction. The moment that footage of the Clark Pow Pow play hit social media, the internet went into full meltdown mode. But instead of focusing on the obvious foul from Tahina Pow Pow, guess who the trolls blamed?
Caitlin Clark, her arm is like being grabbed by Tina Pow Pow and she does take it off.
She's trying to gain separation to shoot a three.
But I've never, like, this is some of the worst refereeing I've ever seen to not call a defensive foul here. This is a vet move by Pow Pow. I have to say, this is a vet move by Pow Pow.
Yep, Caitlin Clark. People were swarming the comments, screaming that she always pushes off, that she needs to be called out, that she wouldn't make a single shot if she didn't cheat. Seriously? Are we watching the same game? Let's be clear. Caitlin Clark was grabbed by the jersey, hip-checked, and stopped from driving cleanly to the basket. But because she extended her arm slightly to break free, suddenly she's the villain? That's the narrative now.
She's going up against Pow Pow and she does a step back three, she hits it, but the internet is going wild for this because they are complaining about her pushing off with her left arm.
And here's the most frustrating part. The same people who said last season that Caitlin just needed to toughen up and get used to the physicality of the WNBA are the first ones complaining now that she's too aggressive. Think about that. Last year, when she was getting knocked to the floor, thrown off her rhythm and hammered on drives, the response was, she needs to get stronger. She's not ready for the W. But the moment she learns how to protect herself and create space like every great player does, they flip the script and cry foul.
It is a mad situation just all around when it comes to Caitlin Clark because it's very clear that she is way stronger.
Caitlin has always been an underrated athlete. She's the fastest player in the league to me with the ball in her hands. And she was the best guard finishing around the rim last year. She shot a bunch of it, and it's been the whole preseason where it looks to me like on her deepest shots, she is just getting them off like they're nothing, like they're routine. Because nobody else is shooting from this distance regularly, and she's doing it with a flick of her wrist. How easily it looks like she's shooting those threes and hitting those threes in the clip that she's doing it. You know, going to the rack, all these various things that show she's even stronger than she was a year ago. And you see it in the strong numbers. I mean, 13 points, 6 boards, 7 assists in 23 minutes of action.
It's hypocrisy in broad daylight. When other players throw elbows, grab jerseys, and play hard-nosed defense, it's celebrated as gritty. But when Caitlin so much as uses a shoulder or a small arm extension, it's suddenly a scandal. Let's not pretend this outrage is about rules. This is about narrative control, plain and simple. Clark is the face of the league right now. She brings the ratings, the fans, the media attention, and that kind of spotlight, it creates enemies. The truth is, if this same play happened to any other star, let's say Sabrina Ionescu or Kelsey Plum, people would be talking about the missed foul and how defenders need to stay in front. But when it's Caitlin, suddenly the focus shifts to how dirty she plays. It's not just unfair. It's deliberate. And what's wild is that despite being the most hacked player on the floor, Clark rarely gets the call. In her last 2 games, she had just 1 foul drawn. 1. While being grabbed and bumped full court. This isn't about one play anymore. It's about a pattern.
Caitlin Clark is the GOAT.
She signed my jersey. I'm so happy. I'm crying. I'm so happy. This is the best day ever.
They went the extra mile just to watch her play here.
This is great news for women's basketball, period.
A refusal to let Caitlin Clark play her game without being nitpicked, scrutinized, or flat out attacked for things other players do every night. So now the question becomes, what does all this mean going forward? Not just for Caitlin Clark, but for the Indiana Fever and even the WNBA as a whole. Because make no mistake, this isn't just about a missed foul or a bad ref call. It's about a growing trend, a targeting culture, and a league struggling to handle its biggest star with fairness and respect. Let's start with Caitlin. She's not just a talented rookie anymore. She's the most talked about player in women's basketball.
WNBA rumors suggest Caitlin Clark will be among the first stars making $1 million annually. The most notable of which is, y'all already know who, the needle mover, Caitlin Clark.
She's filling arenas, skyrocketing TV ratings, and drawing mainstream media attention the WNBA hasn't seen in years. But with that spotlight comes a price, and the price for Caitlin Clark seems to be unrelenting physical play, constant scrutiny, and minimal protection. Look at how she's handled herself. In the Atlanta Dream game, even with players draped all over her and the refs ignoring blatant contact, she kept her cool.
The WNBA referees are terrible. The one-sided calls against Caitlin are so obvious and disgusting, they're ruining the game. If the referees do not get this whole situation together with this Caitlin Clark thing, fans is finna stop watching this sport.
She didn't throw tantrums. She didn't retaliate. She let her game do the talking, hitting tough shots, including that cold-blooded step-back three despite the chaos. That's not just skill, that's mental toughness, and people don't give her enough credit for it. But here's what's scary. If this kind of treatment continues, how long can one player carry the weight of the league, the criticism, and the physical pounding without burning out? The WNBA is asking Caitlin Clark to be its face.
That's nice.
And she was shooting the shit out of it.
Of course she was.
Right, so she was shooting the shit out of it. And
she's the face of the league.
Agreed.
She's the face of the league. Agreed.
Just have nothing but great things to say about who she is as a person. Just so welcoming and so warm as an individual that she can have a conversation with anybody. She's cut from the same cloth as me in that regard. You know what? Us Midwesterners, we tend to just, accept everybody with open arms. She was so kind to my family and everyone in the suite when she came to KC. So huge fans of Caitlin Clark.
It is a mad situation just all around when it comes to Caitlin Clark, because it's very clear that she is way stronger.
But then refusing to give her the same respect, protection, and whistle other stars get. That's not sustainable. And where does this leave the Indiana Fever? This is a young team trying to find chemistry and an identity. Clark is the engine, but even engines break down if they're overworked and underprotected. You can see the potential. Caitlin's preseason numbers prove it. 14.5 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds per game, shooting over 52% from the field and 50% from three. That's not just improvement, that's elite efficiency. But those numbers could be even better if the refs actually called the game fairly. Every time Clark has to fight through 2 defenders grabbing her 94 feet from the basket, it slows the offense. It takes a toll. It affects her ability to create for others. This isn't just about her personal stats. It's about the entire team's rhythm and confidence. And think about the message this sends to young players watching at home. Caitlin Clark came into this league as a generational talent with a massive following.
She is highly likable. I think that lends itself to her popularity is she comes across as somebody that's really just respectful, likable. There's other players out there that just don't come across that way.
If she's getting bullied and blamed for just trying to play her game, what does that say to the next wave of stars? That if you shine too bright, the league won't back you up? The WNBA needs to make a choice. Either they step up and start protecting the players who are drawing fans to the game, or they risk pushing away the very people who are elevating the sport. Because right now, it feels like Caitlin Clark is being punished for being too good, too popular, and too different from the mold. And let's not ignore the elephant in the room. Race and bias do play a role in how Clark is treated. That's a conversation people don't want to have, but we need to. The double standards are glaring. When black players play physical, they're seen as strong and tough. When Clark responds with the same physicality, she's called dirty or dramatic. The league needs to confront this head-on, not sweep it under the rug. But if there's one thing we've learned, it's that Caitlin Clark is built for the storm.
A fan took this iPhone footage of the Indiana Fever doing a workout after that game against the Atlanta Dream. And it was Caitlin, it was Brianna Turner, Jaylen Brown, and Natasha Howard. They were working out in the hallway and just doing some simple lifting. And then also you can see here, Sophie Cunningham comes out of the locker room and she is wearing a boot.
She's not backing down. She's adjusting, she's learning, and she's still shining. And she's doing it with composure, class, and cold-blooded clutch shooting, even while taking hits from opponents, the media, and the refs. So yes, the footage shows she was targeted.
See that? Do the step back. She had to step back because she knew she didn't have any area here. See, this is the photo that went viral.
But it also shows something bigger. She's still standing, still delivering, and still changing the game. The footage doesn't lie, and now the world sees it. Caitlin Clark isn't just getting defended. She's getting targeted. And the fact that she still drops clutch threes, stays composed, and leads her team despite it all, that's what makes her different. That's what makes her great.
So in 2024, she averaged 16.5 points per game, 4 assists, 5.5 rebounds. She shot 37% from the field and 31.8% from three. Now, if you look at her preseason in 2025, she only played 2 games in this preseason, and one was against that Brazilian national team. She played 21 minutes. She averaged 14.5 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds. She shot 52.5% from the field and 50% from three-point range.
But this conversation can't stop here. If you believe Caitlin deserves respect, fair treatment, and protection like any other star in this league, drop 100% in the comments right now to show your support. Let's flood the comment section and make sure her voice and her game can't be ignored. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we're keeping it real, breaking down the facts, and standing up for players who make this game special. Smash that like button if you're riding with Caitlin Clark, and I'll see you in the next one.